Welcome to Old Guy Tech,
the OGT.TV recording studio.
Technology for the rest of us.
Hello, you're watching Crime Beat on Old Guy Tech TV for July 8th, 2015. I'm Rob Charney, and our guest today is Sheriff John DeAugustini of El Dorado County. Once again, John, thank you so much for coming on in and
thank you.
Playing with me for the day here. And
absolutely.
Having some time to talk about stuff. And, you know, why don't we start on the one that's chafing both of us the most? Let's talk about the San Francisco situation with the sanctuary city and taking deportated people back multiple times and this guy getting a hold of a gun and killing a lovely woman. And it breaks my heart every time I see it. Let me talk a little bit about that and that whole thing.
Well, the thing that really bugs me, and we got to go back a couple years, is a thing called the Trust Act.
Okay.
When I think it was the feds had secure communities or whatever it was, and they ruled that, well, federal law states that when we have an illegal immigrant in custody for whatever reason, a DUI, spousal abuse, whatever it is, that we notify ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, if there is either a court ordered or they're bailing out or whatever, timeout. They've served their sentence, they're getting ready to get released, they're going to bail out, whatever it is. And ICE places a hold on this person.
Okay, so they've told El Dorado County that when this guy is getting ready to be kicked, you're supposed to notify us.
Notify us.
Okay.
And then, if we say that we want this guy held, or gal, whatever, we want this person held, you have to hold them. The law says for up to 48 hours. It says you shall hold for up to 48 hours to give ICE time to get personnel there to take them into custody, to get them deported or whatever
it is they need to do. Right.
Okay. What happened is the court said, because we're detaining them beyond the time that they would normally be detained from anybody else, just because they're illegal, that we can no longer hold them. So 1 second passed that time, so that we can't honor the ICE hold, 48-hour ICE hold. ICE has to work it out. We got to give them at least enough notice so that they can say, yeah, we'll get him when he's coming out the door.
Yeah,
but we can't no longer hold them 1 second more.
All right.
Period. Okay. California bought onto that. In 2013, they passed AB 4, I believe it was, the Trust Act.
Okay.
Okay? And they said, yep, that's what it is. You can't honor that 48-hour ICE hold. Kick them out the door. Well, some of us, sheriffs, I included, through talking with State Sheriff's Council, lawyers, federal law says shall.
Yeah.
You shall hold this person for up to 48 hours to give ICE time to come get him. So we said, unless federal law changes and says
it's
may,
a shall.
It says shall.
Okay.
So we held for 48 hours.
Right.
Then comes a case out of, I believe, Portland, Oregon, where one of these illegals was going to be released for whatever reason, and ICE placed a hold, and that sheriff's office, that local detention facility, held that person for ICE to come. They turned around and sued and won. They won. So now we have a local court decision. Now, it's not binding everywhere. But it's
still
a local court decision.
Right.
So our counsel came back and said, look, we were wrong. You can still do it. You can still hold by up to 48 hours, but you're going to get sued. And now with this, what they're using, you're going to lose. So our advice is do everything you can to give ICE enough notice to get there when they're being released.
Right.
But you can't hold them beyond that without probable cause or anything other than just that ICE holder. You can't hold them anymore for that.
Right. So, okay, now you got it enough time. This person's getting ready to be kicked. Your office has to get enough time notice.
Because we
Yeah.
can't hold them anymore. That 48 hours doesn't work anymore. That's under the California Trust Act, AB 4. That all of these legislatures that are now screaming about these sanctuary cities
Right.
and what just happened, it's total 100% hypocrisy. They passed this. They wanted this. They pushed for this.
Yeah.
And I could look it up. I can't remember the bill's author. But I looked at the votes. It was pretty much a party line vote, although some did cross.
Right.
But for them to say now that, oh my gosh, this is wrong, and this sanctuary city stuff is ridiculous. It's total hypocrisy. This started down the path that they started years ago, and now it's not working, and they're saying, oh, this is bad law, this is bad, we need to fix this, we need to do something different. Even Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi and Barbara Boxer, they're all stepping up now and saying that. You were the people that pushed it. This was the folks that said, yep, we're violating their constitutional rights. No, they're illegal. They're here illegal. They've already snubbed their nose at our laws. They're here illegal.
What part of illegal don't they understand?
Absolutely.
That's that same argument.
So the last few days,
Yeah.
I've actually been losing sleep over this. It just ticks me off. I can't believe it. This cretin in San Francisco that's done what he has done, sanctuary city or not, just the mere fact that we have the Trust Act,
Right.
they would probably kick them out the door anyway. So anyway, there's my rant.
Well,
I've been having a rant. I've been wanting a place to vent it. Thank you.
Here it is.
Thanks
We
for
get to
giving
vent
me
it.
the
Yeah.
opportunity.
Well, so let me. How does a city make an ordinance and say, okay, we're going to be a sanctuary?
That's
city?
allowed under the Trust Act. That's allowed.
So
They can have an ordinance that says they're not going to honor any of that stuff.
Okay, and the Trust Act is just the state of California. It's a federal.
Trust Act is California, AB4,
Okay.
but it started with, I believe it, like I said, secure communities or something, and it went across the nation. And many states passed such types of legislation. California is being called Trust Act and
Okay.
AB4.
All right. So we can't violate their constitutional rights because they're illegals, and we're going to apply it to the illegal people as well as anybody else, and they can't be held longer than the term that they were given.
We're going backwards. We need to, from realignment to
yeah.
47
Yeah.
last November, all these kinds of things, we're reaping what we sowed.
Yeah.
We're reaping what we sowed. This is what we're going to get if we're going to be passing these types of asinine laws. And I use that term because it's strong enough. They are absolutely asinine.
So, do you have any more information? I'm still a little confused on how this illegal, who'd been deported 7 times, I believe now, how he actually got a hold of a firearm, and now he's saying it just kind of went off. Do you know anything about that?
Well, all I know is now the news is reporting, and I haven't confirmed it
Right.
through any other things other than what the news is reporting, that this firearm was actually stolen a couple months ago from a federal agent.
Okay.
So again, it just goes to show you that crooks don't care. Gun laws don't apply to them. They don't care. Stolen from a federal agent, from a cop. So even if only the cops have guns.
Yeah, yeah.
And the people aren't allowed to have guns, crooks will still get their hands on guns. They'll steal them from the cops.
Oh, absolutely. We know this. I did a post, for those of you out there following me on Facebook, I did this post talking about Germany in 1934, a little bit of how they started their gun registration program, and then how they applied it to a specific group, of course, which was just Jews at the time and started, and how they went along and completely started disarming the citizens. And then, there you go. And why is it any different now than it was then?
It's not.
Well, people sure go.
It's not. That's
oh,
why
that'll
we have
never
the
happen
Second
here.
Amendment. It is happening.
And unfortunately, that's what people said in Germany in 1934. Why don't we learn from history?
Yeah, that goes to a perfect topic that you wanted to talk about. That 707.
Yeah. Okay. So SB 707. SB 707 is specifically going against. If you look at penal code, it states that persons that have a concealed carry weapons permit are able to walk on school
peace
grounds.
officers and retired peace officers
And military.
Which
is a little scary in this. It should say National Guard, but it says military. Anyway,
Good point.
so yeah, and so the whole idea is that here we have, if a situation should happen, an active shooting situation should happen, if you have a person or persons that have the ability to maybe stop the situation right away, this is a good thing. And now with SB 707, now they're piling up to take that right away.
Mm-hmm.
And as well as they're not only saying, can you not carry a concealed weapon, you cannot have any form of ammunition as well. And then there's just, I got so mad after reading the first page, I didn't even really get any further, but they're adding more onto it. And if this gets to Brown, he's going to sign it. So there's still time. The assembly still has to hear it.
AB 707.
Yeah.
AB 707.
Actually, it's SB 7. It's SB 707.
SB 707.
Look it up. You guys won't believe this. We're taking the opportunity to save our children away.
Yep. The reason those exceptions were put in there in the first place was so that we could save our kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That somebody there could help save these children. Folks, you got to remember, people that have concealed weapons permits are the good guys. They go through training. They go through background checks. You got to be squeaky clean to even think about having a concealed weapons permit. And they're treating us like criminals.
Absolutely.
It's just...
Absolutely.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So... the penal code section, by the way, if you want to look up, because this is the new one, it's 3310. That's the actual initial bill that was posted, according to my paperwork here. Is an exemption to...
The old penal code section was 626.9. That's changed.
Right. So it's going down to penal code section now.
30310.
Yeah. So look it up. You can look it up under Gun Free Zones Act, and you will read in there where there is literally an exemption for those that have a concealed weapons permit. And I can't understand why these idiots are getting so worked up, because nobody with a CCW has ever done anything on a school ground but be perfectly safe.
We're going backwards. We're going backwards. We're going the wrong way. This kind of
Yeah, we really. And I don't understand it. I mean, I talk to a lot of people that have a lot of different points of views on firearms, but for the most part, even the uber liberal anti-gun people, I've said, here's the situation. What do you think of this? And they go, and I explain what a concealed weapons permit is, because half the people in the state don't even know what it is.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I have to explain what it is. I have to explain how you have to get it. And then I say, here's an opportunity that if your child is in school and we have somebody that could help stop an active shooter situation, don't you want them there? Well, yeah. Okay. So, but you're against guns. Well, yeah, I don't think anybody should have guns. I mean, they've gone as far as, I don't know if you saw this thing, it wasn't kidding, some uber liberal politician out there even said, I don't think law enforcement should have guns. I mean, it was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, like my good friend Ted Nugent said, California is the planet of the apes. He's absolutely right. I mean, it's just stupid crazy. Please, folks, get some common sense about things that are going on. But it's just really ridiculous. Let's just talk about this for a moment here. One of our I have to hold it out. One of our watchers, one of the people that watch the show, asked the question for you, and it goes. You heard that the El Oro County is designated as a county that will take refugees should a catastrophic event take place in another county. So they would like to know if this is correct, and if it is, for example, how many refugees can the county accommodate, what period of time, how will they be housed, where would food, water, and etc. come from? You have any way of answering that one?
Well, yeah, on the specific numbers and the times and things, I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but our OES, Office of Emergency Services, which is run out of the Sheriff's Office, we have plans for all that. That is absolutely true. If there is a catastrophic event in another county, we can be requested to take refugees from another county in the state of California. That is due to, and here's a perfect example, under mutual aid from the State Office of Emergency Services. Last year during the King Fire, our resources got taxed.
Right.
I mean, we were tapped out very early on in that incident. and we use the term, we pulled the big red handle. We asked for help, and we had agencies from all over the state come and help us. Obviously, the fire side of the house had a lot of help from all over the state and the nation. Law enforcement for the evacuations and the security of those evacuated areas, we had agencies, again, from all over the state come and help us. In the same, and we couldn't have done it without them. We truly couldn't have. We needed that help, and the help through Office of Emergency Services was reimbursed. We got reimbursed. What's called an FMAG, Federal Management. I can't remember the acronym now. Some assistance grant. We put in for it. We met the thresholds, and we got reimbursed for nearly all of it. So, should a major disaster happen in Sacramento County, say Natomas floods, and it takes out from there all the way down through Sacramento, and they have nowhere to put anybody. All of their facilities are taxed. They're dealing with the emergency and everything else, and they ask for help. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to help.
You're not obligated.
We're not obligated. In a way, we are, but also in a way we can. There are ways that we can say no. Typically, you don't do that because tomorrow it could be you.
Sure.
And we can take those refugees and assist them and help them in any way we can. The food, the water, the medicine, and all those things, typically those come through OES as well. If it's a bad enough an emergency, and I think I know kind of where the viewer or whoever is asking, why would we be helping those folks, and how are we going to take care of our own? Well, if it is one of those situations where we have our own emergencies going here, we won't.
Right.
We will be taking care of our own.
Right.
We'll be worried about that first and foremost. But as being a good neighbor and a good citizen and compassionate, if folks need a place to go and we can take care of them, we will. Yeah.
So the mutual aid really will depend on how we're already taxed here in our county. If we have situations already with flooding or whatever may be going on, obviously we're all holding our breath to get through this summer, and hopefully we'll have a winter, because I think we all are on edge, knowing how dry things are there. I mean, we're all. The minute we smell a whiff of smoke,
we had the one here the other day off of Boone. I can't remember the name, off of Bucks Bar Road. And thank God we didn't have winds that day. And I sat there and talked with a couple of the fire guys, and I said, "Man, thank God we don't have winds. If they'd have had winds that day, that chimney up that North Fork Canyon, that would have been devastating.
Oh yeah,
that would have been just terrible. But we didn't have any winds. They were able to get it contained, to get flanks on it, get it surrounded, get a line cut around it. Where it was even so steep, the tankers were having a hard time getting in and out. They were dropping in areas that they normally wouldn't drop, thinking ahead of the fire, because they couldn't get down in the fire.
Right.
So, but the mutual aid, it works. And here's another example of saying no. When a couple years ago, the Occupy, Oakland reached out for mutual aid to respond down and help with Occupy, and we turned it down. We said no for a couple reasons. Number one, we would have only been able to send a limited number of people. We have the training and we have the equipment, but we also saw we have another major metropolitan area between us and Oakland, Sacramento. And should something have occurred in Sacramento or taken off where they would have pulled the big red handle, we'd have been better off to be serving our neighbor than going down and serving Oakland. And they ended up getting enough assistance. But there's times when those requests come in, and I'm part of those requests.
Sure.
The round table of, okay, this is what they got, this is what they want, this is what they're asking for, this is also what's going on elsewhere.
Right.
You need to take all those things into account when you're making those decisions. So.
Yeah, especially a city like Oakland, because there's so many other agencies around.
Absolutely. So it works. We did. Yeah, it works. It does work, and it works very, very well. The King Fire, again, I mean, to see the help and the assistance that we had,
Yeah.
and the folks
Yeah.
that came, and
All this-
nobody had an attitude. Everybody showed up ready and willing to help.
Let's
Everybody
do what we
wanted
can
to be there.
That's right.
Because today it's us. Tomorrow it might be them.
Right.
You know.
Oh yeah, no. Like I said, there isn't a one of us that aren't just holding our breath up here, folks. If you don't follow California and pick it up where we are here in our little neck of the woods, it isn't going to take much.
But the specifics, how many can we handle? For how long can we handle them? Where we can put them, we have that all figured out in a plan. We've had all those round tables. You've probably heard me say this on the show before. I firmly believe in your body can't go where your mind hasn't been.
Right.
So it's same for an organizational structure and operation. If you don't at least talk about these things and have these round tables, what do you do when the actual event occurs?
Right.
At least you have an idea.
Hey, we got a caller.
Hey, good.
Yeah. Hello, you're on with All Guide Tech TV. I'm Rob. Who do we have?
Yeah, Rob. Hi, this is Thomas from Cameron Park area.
Hi, Thomas. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I just wanted to, first of all, just give a big thumbs up to Sheriff D'Agostini about all the really good work that he's been doing. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. My question is for the sheriff is, have there been any ramifications in El Dorado County from the anti-law enforcement incidents we've seen from across the nation in recent months? And if so, how so?
First of all, that's a great question, and I appreciate that. And I just gave a presentation, I can't remember. It was just not too long ago, like a week ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
I got to take these off. The latency's killing me. So in El Dorado County, I've said this before, I'll say it again, we are truly blessed. We have a lot of support from our community. Those kinds of things that are happening elsewhere, that are getting the attention that they do or sometimes do not deserve. I don't think we have that issue in El Dorado County. We have tried really, really hard, and I think we've been very successful. We can always do better and are always working to do better on breaking down those walls between law enforcement and the community and being part of the community. Our vision statement of the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office: a modern approach to traditional law enforcement values, total enforcement on crime and criminals, total care for victims, witnesses, and the community, and total professionalism through training and by example, I think lays it out, especially the part about total care for victims, witnesses, and the community. I encourage our deputies to get out there, to meet the folks. If they're not down on calls, they're not down on reports, get out of your cars, go into the local businesses, meet the folks, dispatchers, the people that call up on dispatch, even though once in a while, yes, you have those callers that you think, really? Isn't there, this is what we have to deal with right now? But to that person, it's the most important thing at that time, or they wouldn't be calling. And treating everybody with the golden rule. How would you expect to be treated? So to have that support of the community has really kept some of that negative type of stuff out of our county and out of our communities. And I think that's due to that relationship that we always work on cultivating with the community and that we always have to work at. We can't just think, okay, we've done enough one day, let's do something else. That's something that we always have to work on. Now, another argument that's come out of this whole debate on police and accountability and things like that, which we are accountable every day, we understand that, but is the body camera issue. I don't see in the near future our deputies all wearing body cameras, and I'll tell you why. It's still an emerging technology. There's still a lot to be learned on this technology. There's other things that this technology brings to the table that aren't being talked about, such as the storage. That's a lot of information. How much is that storage going to cost? It's significant. How long do we have to retain that storage? On Public Records Act requests, what do we have to give out? And how much time is it going to take, staff time, to be able to meet the requests from the public on Public Records Act requests on this video data? It sounds simple just saying it this way, but it can really be enormous. If we have 5 news outlets that come in and say, we want all of your video for the last, well, since the inception of the body-worn cameras. You're talking terabytes of information that we have to download, burn to some type of device, and provide it. And the law only allows us so much that we can recoup on doing that.
Yeah.
And there's a whole nother aspect of it that, in my mind, hasn't been talked about, or it has been, but very limited. And to me, it holds more weight than the money issues, the process issues, and everything else. And that is the barrier that we will be putting between our deputies and the community, and more importantly, victims. It's one thing for a deputy to be interviewing a victim of a rape, or a victim of a child abuse, or a victim of a domestic violence, and having an audio recorder out to record the statements to assist in the writing the reports,
right,
and also for use later in court. It's another thing to put a camera now on that victim and asking the same questions and expecting the same responses. To me, in my experience, and dealing with and doing interviews and interrogations, interviewing witnesses and everything else, these very sensitive witnesses and victims, that would put a huge barrier up. I wouldn't expect to get the same response and the same candor out of a victim of a rape when I have my auto recorder out as I would if I had a camera there.
Yeah, and that also begs a question on that line. Now, if you're going to interview, let's say, there's a couple things. One thing comes to mind right away is that you rely on eyewitnesses. And now all of a sudden, this eyewitness is going to be recorded on videotape and recording. Why would they want to give information? Because maybe it's a gang situation, it's a bad guy situation, and that's got to stay confidential.
That's a good point, too. That's a good point, too. We already have in El Dorado County, we have cameras in our cars, and they do a great job.
The typical dash cam type
dash
thing.
cam,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm just not ready to step yet into the realm of mandatory body-worn cameras. And quite honestly, I don't think the federal government has any place, nor the state government, mandating such things. That's a local decision made by local elected officials. That's how our system is supposed to work, and I just don't like them mandating these things.
I think there's too many questions still. I think it's easy to blanketly say everybody should wear these things, but you brought it up, I brought it up. There's situations where it's not appropriate, and I also worry about, again, like, why would somebody want to give law enforcement information if all of a sudden this information could be given to a news service or who knows what? I mean, I wouldn't say anything. And they're in fear of their lives. So I think there's a lot of things that, a lot of questions that haven't been answered on the body cam. I think it's an easy solution that when something bad goes wrong, people jump on. But I do agree with the sheriff, and I do think that we need to study this a little bit more. Thomas, you still with us?
Yes, sir.
So did we answer your question?
Yes, that was a good answer. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you very much for calling.
Thank you.
Okay, so
perfect.
Yeah, that was a great question. Actually, I'm really glad he brought that up, because that has been a big focus recently. And if you remember our last show, go back in the archives and look at our last show. I played a video. Remember the video?
Yeah.
I played a video where one of these guys, who is I don't want to say antagonist, but he was out there. I want his gun. I want his badge. I want his money. I want everything, because of a shooting situation. And this was down in Mariposa County. And the sheriff's department reached out to him and said, why don't you walk in our shoes? And did some training with him to show him that it's not that easy, guys. There's more to it. So I think it's important that we make sure that the public understands that you have to take each case individually, and you have to take the time to investigate it properly. Let's not have this situation where that attorney general in 3 days made a decision. Bad, we got rid of him. Whatever. I'm sorry, I don't know her name, but
well, that brings up a good point. For years, and in my career, for the length of my career, the lens at which the courts look at these types of incidents is through the eyes of a reasonable officer in that position. Very subjective, and it needs to be, because it needs to be through the eyes of a reasonable officer in that position. Mm-hmm. And they have expert witness testimony. Experts come in and they say, yes, if I was in that situation and I saw that and I had to make that split-second decision, what would a reasonable officer think? What would a reasonable officer do? There is a bill going through somewhere, and I can't remember if it was federal or state, and it just came up the other day, and I think it's going to just die quick. I'm hoping it does. I'll know if it gets legs, and then we can talk about it on another show. But it's going to take that out of it. It's going to say that the reasonableness and the lens of that officer is no longer going to apply. It is only going to be based on the objective facts surrounding the incident. On the face, that sounds okay. But the problem is, and here's an example. The objective facts of a person pulling out a replica firearm, the objective facts of that would say that lethal force is not justified because it is only a replica firearm. It is unable to be fired. The subjectiveness of that officer through that lens at that scene in that split-second decision, he doesn't know if it's a replica firearm. All he knows is that somebody's going to pull a trigger.
Yeah.
And who's going to win? We're trained to win. So I have some real concerns if this bill or whatever it is, I can't remember where it was, gains some footing and starts to move forward. And if it does, I'll definitely bring it up. But those are the kind of things that, again, we talked at the beginning of the show. We're going backwards.
Yeah.
We're going backwards. A citizen defending his own home and his own family from an intruder who he believes is armed and believes that his life or his family's life is in imminent danger,
right.
Given that objective, factual basis scenario, and the imitation firearm again, now that person is in the wrong because they firmly believed that their life was in danger, and they chose to use, in that split second, deadly force.
Yeah.
But yet the objective facts are it was only an imitation firearm, therefore lethal force was not justified. That's scary.
That's very scary.
That's scary.
What are we all supposed to be, experts on replica firearms? And you know what? What even bothers me more about this is that I don't care if the guy's got a screwdriver, a knife.
Exactly.
Anything can be a weapon that can take a life. And statistics from the FBI prove it out. And within 21 feet, a man with a knife, if you have a concealed weapon, or even if you don't, with a 21-foot distance, okay, a man with a knife can come and kill you or stab you faster than you're able to draw and
react.
Shoot. That's right. I mean, that's FBI statistics on this stuff. I train my students with this information. And so now our home is our castle. And, and we do have a form of a castle doctrine a bit. In California, but it can be overthrown. But that brings in that question again. You have to make a decision right then and there. If you are afraid for your life and the life of your family, friends, or whoever may be there, this. I know what eats at the back of my head: lawsuits, attorneys.
Your life will change.
Your life will change.
Your life will change. Absolutely.
And not for the better. Your
life will change.
It's a scary thing, and then they throw in this stupid SB 707 bill wanting to keep us from being able to protect our children on school grounds. That drives me crazy too. So there's an awful lot to drive me crazy, and I'm running out of space here, guys. I'm getting too old for this stuff. But, hey, you know what? We wrapped it up. We did a little over 30 minutes. John, thank you again for coming in and seeing us.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. We had a good time, and again, I want to thank everybody for watching the show and having a great time, and we'll see you next time.